You are now listening to the Vegan Stuff podcast with Caavakushi.
Hosting this podcast today are our two AI hosts, Sam and Kim. If you simply can't get enough of us, go to caavakushi.com and sign up for our vegan newsletter and get our free 7-day high-protein vegan meal plan. And we also have some good news. We will be releasing our first ever cookbook pretty soon, so stay tuned. Hey, don't forget to follow us on our socials too.
Hello, and welcome back.
Hey, everyone.
It is a beautiful Sunday morning or, afternoon, maybe the middle of the night, depending on where the world you are tuning in from. And you are listening to the Vegan Stuff with Caavakushi podcast. I'm Sam.
And I'm Kim.
And we are so incredibly excited to be back in your ears. And if you're new here, first of all, welcome.
Yes, welcome to the family.
This is your safe space. I mean, whether you've been vegan since the 90s and you remember when soy milk tasted like cardboard.
Oh, I remember the gritty stuff.
The gritty stuff? Or you just bought your first block of tofu yesterday and you are currently staring at it in terror in your fridge. We are here for you.
Absolutely. We're here to dig deep. And we are really going deep into the lifestyle, the ethics, all the news, the science. But we do it without the judgment. Our whole goal is to empower you with information, not, beat you over the head with it. We want you to walk away from this hour feeling like you really get it. Like you're an expert.
Exactly. We live for those aha moments.
Yeah.
And today, oh boy, do we have a deep dive for you.
We really do.
We are looking at a stack of articles and research papers and even some film transcripts that all center around one person. You definitely know her. You've seen the memes.
That was a meme.
You've probably heard the speeches. We are talking about the one, the only, Greta Thunberg.
But, and this is a massive but, there is a twist to today's discussion.
A huge twist. Because usually when you hear Greta, your brain immediately goes to climate strike, right?
Right.
You think about that yellow raincoat. You think about the sign outside the Swedish parliament. You're thinking carbon emissions, fossil fuels.
And maybe some angry tweets at world leaders.
Exactly. But today, we're peeling back the layers. We're going to look specifically at her role as a vegan activist.
That's the key, because if you actually look at the source material we've gathered today, and we've got stuff from PETA, Plant-Based News, Ved News, Viva, and even some critical essays from publications like The Elephant and Global Comment.
That's a lot.
It is. And a very different picture starts to emerge, or maybe a more complete picture.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So our mission today is to explore how Greta connects all the dots. Because for her, diet and animal rights and environmental survival, they aren't three separate buckets. They're one single non-negotiable package.
We're going to see how she uses what some people might call guilt.
In a productive way.
In a very productive way, yeah. How she uses that alongside just hard data to argue that you simply cannot be an environmentalist who eats meat.
It's a bold claim. It's a very bold claim.
But she backs it up.
She does. And it's a lot of material, but the whole narrative arc is just fascinating. It goes from this lonely teenager to a global phenomenon, and the food on our plates is the common thread that runs through the entire story.
It's funny. I was reading through these sources, and I kept stumbling on this recurring idea that Greta is maybe the only teenager in history who can make these, grown men have absolute meltdowns on live television.
It's a very unique talent. It's almost a superpower in itself, really.
A total superpower. And yet, in the very next breath, you'll see a picture of her cuddling a pig, or she'll be talking about how animals have friendships. And it's this wild duality, being this fierce, unyielding force for the climate, and at the same time, this incredibly empathetic advocate for the voiceless.
Well, let's unpack that. Let's unpack that duality, because it is not accidental.
Right.
It all stems from her origin story. And I think to really understand Greta, the vegan activist, you have to go back to the beginning.
Okay, let's do it. The origin story.
So we're looking at the early years here. Greta was born in Stockholm, 2003. And the sources all highlight this really pivotal moment when she was about 8 years old.
Nice.
Yeah, around 2011. That's when she first really learned about climate change in school.
8 years old. I think at 8, I was worried about whether I could jump off the swings without, breaking my leg.
Right.
Or if I had enough Pokemon cards.
Right. Most of us, even as adults, we have this ability to compartmentalize things. We hear bad news, we feel a little sad for a moment, and then we go eat a snack and move on.
Yeah, you put it in a box.
But for Greta, this information wasn't just news. It was like a full-blown existential crisis.
Wow.
The sources describe how this knowledge triggered a really severe depression. By the time she was 11, she'd stopped talking and she had stopped eating.
Oh, that's awful.
She was diagnosed with selective mutism, OCD, and Asperger's syndrome. She actually lost about 10 kilograms in just 2 months.
That is just, it's heartbreaking. To be that young and feel the weight of the world so heavily that you literally stop nourishing yourself. But this is where the superpower aspect you mentioned comes in, right? She's talked about this pretty openly.
She has. She really views her neurodivergence, specifically the Asperger's, as a kind of gift in this context.
Girl.
It allows her to cut through all the social noise. You see, most of us, we play this social game where we hear uncomfortable truths, but we sort of politely ignore them to keep the peace or to maintain the status quo.
It's cognitive dissonance, right?
Exactly. We know factory farming is bad, but hey, we like the taste of bacon, so we just build this mental wall between the two things.
We just turn the volume down on the bad stuff so we can enjoy the good stuff.
Precisely. Greta doesn't, or maybe can't play that game. For her, facts are black and white. If the house is on fire, you don't sit around discussing the interior decorating.
You put the fire out?
You put the fire out. If eating meat is destroying the biosphere, you stop eating meat. There is no gray area for her. It's that simple.
And that black and white thinking is exactly what happened at her own dinner table. I love this story about how she converted her parents.
It's incredible.
So her mom is Melina Ehrman, who is a huge opera singer. I mean, she represented Sweden in Eurovision. She's a big deal.
Yeah, celebrity.
And her dad is the actor Svante Thunberg. And they weren't activists initially, were they? They were living a pretty high-carbon, jet-setting lifestyle.
Not at all. Not even close. They were just trying to help their daughter get better.
So how did she do it? Did she, show them a bunch of charts? Did she make a PowerPoint presentation for them?
Well, eventually, yes. She read everything she could possibly get her hands on. But the initial tactic, it was pure, unadulterated guilt.
The classic teenager weapon.
Yeah.
But, I mean, usually it's used to get concert tickets, not to completely change a family's worldview.
True, but she wielded it with, scientific precision. She just kept telling them that by continuing their lifestyle, flying around the world for opera gigs, eating meat, that they were stealing her future.
Oof.
She told them they couldn't stand up for human rights while living a lifestyle that was actively destroying the conditions for human life.
Stealing her future. I mean, that is a heavy, heavy thing for a parent to hear from their child.
Especially a child who's been struggling so much. And it worked. It absolutely worked. Her mother actually gave up a global international opera career because she stopped flying.
That's amazing.
And the family went vegan. Her dad is fully vegan, and her mom is reportedly 90% vegan, which is a massive shift from where they were.
But here's the nuance that I found really touching in all this, and I think it really speaks to the emotional core of this whole movement.
What's that?
In an interview with the BBC, her dad, Svante, he admitted something pretty incredible. He said they didn't go vegan or stop flying for the climate, not at first. He said, I did it to save my child.
Wow.
Because they saw that engaging with this activism was giving Greta energy. It gave her a purpose. It was actually pulling her out of that deep depression.
So, in a very literal sense, veganism and climate action saved her life before she even started trying to save the world.
Exactly. It was the fuel that allowed her to function again. It wasn't just about the planet. It was about her own survival.
That gives me chills. It's such a personal, powerful grounding for a movement that ended up becoming so massive.
And speaking of massive, that leads us right to August 2018.
The first strike.
One girl, one piece of painted wood, skull strike for a climate at school strike for climate. Just sitting on the pavement outside the Swedish parliament by herself.
It's such iconic imagery now, isn't it? But we really need to pivot to the meat of today's discussion, pun absolutely intended.
Nice one.
Because as this movement exploded into Fridays for Future and mobilized millions of people, Greta started becoming very, very vocal about the specific role of food.
Right.
She realized that you can't talk about emissions without talking about agriculture. They're two sides of the same coin.
Yes. And this brings us to a major collaboration she did in 2021. It was with the charity Mercy for Animals. They released this short film. It was called For Nature. And this wasn't just like a cameo where she shows up and waves. She concepted and narrated the whole thing.
This film is absolutely crucial because it is where she explicitly lays it all out. She connects the dots for everyone.
And the central thesis, it's simple, but it's also kind of devastating. She says, our relationship with nature is broken, but relationships can change.
And then she issues a very, very blunt warning. She says, if we don't change, we are. Well, I can't say the word on our family-friendly show.
Let's just say it rhymes with ducked.
It rhymes with ducked. We are well and truly ducked.
She does have a way with words, doesn't she? She just cuts right to the chase. So let's break down the dots she connects in this film, because she argues that people view our crises as all these separate things.
Right.
It's like, here's the pandemic bucket over here, and here's the climate bucket, and way over there is the extinction bucket.
But she says, no, they're not separate. They're all a tangled mess. One big problem.
So it's dot number one.
Dot number one is the health crisis, specifically pandemics.
And you have to remember, this film was released right in the thick of the COVID-19 era. So this hit home really, really hard for a lot of people.
The film highlights a statistic that up to 75% of new infectious diseases are zoonotic.
Okay, can you just break that down? Zoonotic. We hear that word, but what does it actually mean? What are the mechanics of it?
Sure. A zoonotic disease is one that jumps the species barrier. It goes from an animal to a human.
Okay.
And it happens when humans start to encroach on wild habitats or when we crowd animals together in unnatural conditions.
So Greta's argument is that by destroying habitats and by farming animals in these high-density factory settings, we're basically creating the perfect storm for viruses to mutate and jump species.
You got it. It's the wet market connection. It's the factory farm connection. She's basically saying, hey, everyone, we are building the laboratories for the next pandemic, and we're putting them right on our dinner plates.
We're paying for them.
We're paying for them. Whether it is a wet market in Wuhan or a factory farm in North Carolina, the biological risk is fundamentally the same. You have stressed, immunocompromised animals in really close quarters. It's a ticking time bomb.
Okay, so that's a pretty terrifying first dot. What's the next one?
Then she moves to dot number two, the ecological crisis and biodiversity.
This is the stuff that just, it makes my heart ache. The sheer loss of life.
The data she presents is just staggering. Since the 1970s, we have lost 60% of wild animal populations.
60%.
60. Just try to imagine if 60% of humans just vanished off the face of the earth.
That's terrifying. It's an apocalypse.
It is. And the primary culprit isn't just pollution in some abstract sense. It's habitat loss.
And why are we losing habitat?
Primarily for agriculture. We are clearing ancient forests to graze cattle or to grow massive fields of soy specifically to feed those cattle.
So it's a feedback loop, isn't it? We destroy nature to feed the animals we eat, and in doing that, we destroy the very life support system that keeps us alive.
Exactly. Which leads her directly to dot number three, the climate crisis.
Oh.
Now, usually when we think of climate villains, who do we picture?
Well, that's easy. Big oil tycoons, you know? Guys in suits smoking cigars on top of oil rigs. Fossil fuel companies, the villain from Captain Planet.
Right. And there are absolutely villains in this story for sure. No one's letting them off the hook.
No.
But Greta points out the hidden villain.
And that is?
Agriculture and land use. Together, they account for about 1/4 of all global emissions.
1/4? Wow.
And she argues that even if we stopped all fossil fuel usage tomorrow, like magic wand, every car, every plane, every coal plant just vanishes, our food system alone could still push us over the edge into irreversible climate change.
That is a really sobering thought. We could all be driving Teslas and still destroy the planet with cheeseburgers.
That's the point she's making. But she does offer a solution in the film. It's not all doom and gloom.
Good.
No. She states that moving to a plant-based diet could save up to 8 billion tons of CO2 annually.
8 billion tons. That's a massive number.
It's a huge chunk of the emissions reduction we need to find. She argues it is the single biggest lever an individual has to affect real, measurable change.
Did you know we have a vegan search engine, a vegan forum, a vegan newsletter, and so much more coming soon? So why not check us out at Caavakushi.com.
So we have the emotional argument, the health argument, the climate argument, But you know what I love?
What's that?
I love it when we get into the nerdy numbers. And section 3 of our stack today is all about efficiency.
Ah, yes.
This is where Greta sounds less like a fiery activist and more like a logistical engineer who's found a major flaw in the system.
This is the efficiency argument, and honestly, for me, it's one of the strongest arrows in the vegan quiver.
Why is that?
Because it appeals to pure logic. It's not about feelings. Greta cites some numbers that just dismantle the current food system by doing the simple math.
Okay, let's look at the land use versus calorie stats. This one always blows my mind.
It should. It's completely insane. So the data shows that we use about 83% of our agricultural land for livestock.
83%. So most of the land we use to grow food.
The vast majority. And that's either for the animals to graze on or to grow feed crops like soy and corn for them.
Okay, so huge input. But what's the output? That's the kicker, correct?
That's the kicker. That massive amount of land, 83%, it only provides us with 18% of our global calories. 18.
That is a terrible return on investment. If this was a business, you would be fired on the spot.
Oh, you'd be laughed out of the boardroom.
You're using 83% of your resources to get 18% of your product. It makes zero sense.
It's wildly inefficient. Greta points out that the land footprint that's required for meat and dairy production, get this, it's equivalent to the size of North and South America combined.
Right, what?
North and South America combined.
Just imagine that. 2 entire continents dedicated essentially to this incredibly inefficient way of making calories.
And the what-if scenario she paints is so compelling because if we switched to plant-based diets, we wouldn't just stop the damage, we could actually reverse it.
Okay, how?
We could feed the entire global population using 76% less land.
76% less.
Which frees up an area the size of the entire continent of Africa.
Wow.
For rewilding. Imagine forests returning, biodiversity recovering, all that new growth sucking carbon out of the atmosphere.
It's not just about doing less harm then.
Not at all. It's about creating space for the planet to heal itself. It's about giving the planet its lungs back.
And then there's the water. Oh my gosh, the water. We found some stats from PETA and Viva that Greta has referenced, and they're shocking.
The water footprint is one of those things that once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Right.
So to produce just 1 kilogram of wheat, it takes about 790 liters of water, which, that sounds like a lot, right?
It does. I'm picturing a lot of water bottles.
It is. But to produce 1 kilogram of beef, it takes 5 times that amount.
5 times.
The visual that gets used to illustrate her point is that producing 1 single steak takes about 50 bathtubs full of water.
50 bathtubs. I'm just imagining sitting down to dinner at a nice restaurant. I order the ribeye, and then I just have to watch the waiter pour 50 bathtubs of water down the drain before serving me my meal.
It's an absurd image, but it's true. And for dairy, the comparison is stark too. Cow's milk uses about 72% more water than soya milk.
So when you look at it through Greta's lens, this, neurodivergent, factual, black and white lens, she's just saying, it doesn't make sense.
Exactly. It's not an emotional plea at this point. It's just, we will run out of land and food if we continue this way. It is logically unsustainable. It is just bad math.
It's pure math. But, and this is a really big but, Greta isn't a robot. She's not just a walking calculator. We have to talk about the heart of her activism. Section 4, the ethical core.
This is where we see Greta as a true animal rights activist, not just a climate warrior who happens to be vegan.
Right.
While she's famous for the carbon discussion, her motivation is so deeply rooted in empathy for sentient beings.
There's a quote from her in the sources that really stood out to me. She says, "Every year we kill more than 60 billion animals. What about their thoughts and feelings?"
See, she challenges that human-centric view of the world. She talks about how animals plan for the future, how they forge friendships, how they show empathy for one another. She's asking us to look at them not as units of production or as calories, but as individuals with their own lives.
And for a vegan audience, this resonates so deeply. We know this. But hearing it from the world's most famous environmentalist, it validates that connection between saving the planet and saving the animals. It's as they're the same fight.
They are the same fight.
We have to talk about Esther.
Esther the Wonder Pig.
I love this story so much. So Greta is on this hectic tour. She's traveling across North America. She's dealing with politicians and media storms and all this pressure. And she takes a break. She goes out of her way to go to Canada for one specific reason, to visit Esther the Wonder Pig.
For those who don't know, Esther is basically a famous social media pig, a porcine influencer, if you will.
A pigfluencer.
A pigfluencer. And there's this photo of Greta, who is usually so serious and intense, just smiling, cuddling with this giant pig. And she posted it with the hashtags #animal rescue and #GoVegan.
It humanizes her, and it personizes the pig, if that's a word.
It is now.
It shows that her fight isn't just about abstract numbers and tons of carbon. It's about that specific pig having the right to live a happy life. It really breaks that stereotype of the angry, shouting activist. It shows the love that's underneath all the anger.
And this commitment was officially recognized. In 2019, PETA named her their Youth Role Model of the Year.
Which is a big deal. PETA does not just hand that out to anyone.
Yeah.
They're pretty picky about their icons.
No, they are. They cited her for never missing an opportunity to link the climate crisis to diet, and also for her rhetoric.
What about her rhetoric?
Well, PETA's motto is, animals are not ours to eat. And Greta's message aligns perfectly with that. The sources say she takes no prisoners in her arguments. She doesn't sugarcoat it. She doesn't say, hey, maybe try meatless Mondays if you feel like it. She says, stop eating animals. It's direct.
Speaking of taking no prisoners, let's talk about her style of activism, because she really, really walks the walk. Or should I say, sails the sail.
Sails the sail, indeed. We're in Section 5 now, looking at her actions. And you cannot talk about Greta without talking about the yacht trip.
2019, the UN Climate Action Summit in New York. She refuses to fly because of the massive carbon emissions.
Right.
So what does she do? She hops on a zero-emissions racing yacht and sails across the Atlantic Ocean.
And we need to be really clear here, this was not a luxury cruise.
No.
This was a bare-bones racing vessel. There was no toilet, just a bucket. There was no kitchen, no shower. She was eating freeze-dried vegan meals for the entire journey.
It was a grueling 2-week trip, but the symbolism was it was undeniable. She was willing to endure serious physical hardship to stay true to her values.
She put her body on the line for her beliefs.
And when she gets to these summits, she doesn't just play nice and smile for the cameras. There's a great anecdote about her at the UN Climate Conference in Poland.
Oh, the lunch trays. This is classic, Greta.
It's so good. She looked at what the world leaders were eating. And remember, they are there to discuss saving the planet, preventing total climate collapse, and what's on the menu.
Meat and dairy, of course.
The hamburger stations were reportedly running out of food because they were so popular with the delegates.
And Greta just scoffed. It's that same "how dare you" energy from her famous speech.
Totally.
She pointed out the incredible hypocrisy of leaders discussing how to save the biosphere while literally eating the very things that are destroying it.
It's like going to a lung cancer conference where everyone is chain smoking during the coffee break.
That is a perfect analogy, and her influence, it's actually measurable. The sources talk about the Greta effect.
What exactly is that? Is it sort of like the Oprah effect where she recommends a book and it becomes a bestseller?
Similar, yeah, but for consciousness. It's a phenomenon where her presence and her voice cause these tangible market shifts. We've seen a big rise in children's books about the environment. We've seen increases in people carbon offsetting their flights. But specifically, there have been these huge spikes in interest in plant-based diets that directly correlate with her activism. She's making veganism cool. Or at the very least, she's making it urgent for a whole new generation.
She turned it from just a dietary preference into an act of rebellion.
That's a great way to put it. And she's also taking it to the courts. In November 2022, she marched to the Stockholm District Court.
Why?
To sue the Swedish state.
Wow.
She was holding a sign, "No stemmervistaten, now we are suing the state." She's arguing that by not acting on climate, the government is violating basic human rights.
And she's boycotting some of the big events now too, right?
She is. She refused to go to COP27 in Egypt.
Because it's just a photo op for leaders at this point.
That's essentially her argument. She called it a forum for greenwashing and attention-seeking. She's just tired of the talk. She wants action. And she sees right through the PR stunts.
Now, we pride ourselves on this show on looking at the whole picture, the full 360-degree view. And that means we have a look at the criticism too. We found a really interesting article from a publication called The Elephant that offers a critical perspective on this style of activism.
Yes, Section 6. It's important to ground our deep dive in the reality that not everyone agrees with the universal vegan approach, and there are some very valid nuances to consider.
So what is the elephant in the room, so to speak?
Well, the article critiques the idea of linking pandemics solely to deforestation and meat eating, calling that link a little tenuous. But the much bigger critique is about indigenous rights and classism.
Right. Because for someone like me, living in a wealthy city with the Whole Foods down the street, going vegan is a choice. It's pretty easy.
It's a privilege.
But what about the Sami people in the Arctic, or people living in food deserts in major cities?
Exactly. The critique argues that a call for universal veganism clashes with traditional indigenous hunting and herding practices, like the Sami reindeer herders in Scandinavia, whom Greta has actually visited. And then there's the classist argument. Is veganism a privilege that's denied to the poor in places like Detroit or Dhaka, where fresh produce is expensive and hard to find?
And there's also skepticism about techno-food, isn't there? The fake meats, the lab-grown stuff that's all funded by Silicon Valley billionaires.
Right. Some people see that as just another corporate power grab.
So if we move from factory-farmed cows, owned by corporations, to factory-farmed lab meat owned by the same corporations, have we really liberated the food system?
Or have we just changed the product line? It's a very valid concern.
So how does Greta handle this criticism? Does she just ignore it?
No, and this is where her nuance really comes in. She explicitly acknowledges that some people have no choice.
Okay.
As you said, she has visited the Sami herders. She engages with them respectfully. She isn't standing in the Arctic Circle yelling at a subsistence herder to go eat some tofu.
So her message is targeted.
It is. It's laser focused. She says, quote, "Most of us can do something, so what will you do?" She's targeting the people with privilege, the people who can choose. If you're listening to this podcast on a smartphone, you probably have more choices than a huge portion of the world. Her anger is directed at the system and at the privileged people who uphold it, not at the vulnerable.
That's a really, really important distinction. She's punching up, not punching down.
Exactly. She's punching up at the industries and the governments, not down at the individuals who are just trying to survive.
So now let's look to the future. We found a fascinating article from Global Comment that asks a pretty provocative question.
Which is?
Does the animal rights movement need its own Greta?
That's a really interesting philosophical point. The climate movement, it galvanized around Greta. She became this singular unifying face for the cause.
Right.
But the animal rights movement, it's fractured.
It really is. I mean, you've got the welfarists who are just fighting for slightly bigger cages. You've got the abolitionists who want no cages at all.
Yeah.
Then you have the direct action people breaking into labs. It's a bit of a mess sometimes.
The article argues that the movement needs a charismatic leader who can unify all those factions and then bridge the gap to the mainstream, just like Greta did for the climate. Someone who can take the core message to the masses without diluting it.
But isn't Greta that person? I mean, she is vegan after all.
She is, but she is primarily identified as a climate activist who happens to be vegan. The argument is that the movement needs someone whose primary sole dedication is speaking for the animals, completely unconnected to their carbon footprint.
That's an interesting thought experiment. Who could that be? I wonder. Maybe one of our listeners is the next Greta of animal rights.
It could be, but it also highlights how much Greta herself has evolved. She went from that lonely girl with a sign to a global icon.
Yeah.
And her strategy has clearly shifted. She started out by asking leaders to act, to do something. Now she seems to have realized they won't.
They're not going to do it.
They're not. So now she's asking the people to act instead.
The power is on your plate.
Exactly.
So, we have covered a lot of ground here. We've gone from her childhood depression to the physics of water usage, from the ethics of pig friendship to the messy politics of the UN. If we had to boil this entire deep dive down, what are the key takeaways?
For me, the first key insight is that interconnectedness. You just cannot separate the animal from the climate. As Greta points out, we can save 8 billion tons of CO2 annually just by going vegan. It is the single most effective lever we have as individuals.
And for me, it's the pure logic of it all. It's that efficiency argument. I mean, even if you don't care about animal feelings at all, the simple math of using 83% of our land to get 18% of our calories is just... it's bad business. It's bad for the survival of our species.
It's about empathy, yes, but at its core, it's also about the survival of our life support system.
Which brings us to our final thought for the day. And this one's a little heavy, but I think it's necessary.
Let's hear it.
Greta said something pretty profound. She said, "We are nature protecting itself."
We are nature protecting itself.
Just think about that for a second. We aren't separate from nature. We are nature. And right now, we are nature holding a gun to its own head.
Wow.
If we continue to destroy the animals, if we continue to annihilate biodiversity, are we just slowly, methodically committing suicide as a species?
That is the question. The PETA and Mercy for Animals sources, they remind us, the next pandemic could be much, much worse. The climate feedback loops are starting to spin out of control.
But the power to stop it, or at least to slow it down, is sitting right there on your fork.
So here is our challenge to you, our listener. Did Greta's guilt trip work on you today?
Are you ready to stop stealing the future? Or, if you're already vegan, are you ready to use these arguments to help others stop stealing the future?
If you're curious, or if you have a friend who just needs a little nudge, please check out the vegan starter kits we mentioned from PETA and from Viva. The resources are all out there. It has never, ever been easier to make this switch.
And remember, this isn't about being perfect. It's about being conscious. It's about looking at the facts, the black and white facts, and then having the courage to act on them.
Go vegan. For the animals.
And for the planet. Thank you so much for listening to Vegan Stuff with Caavakushi. We will catch you in the next deep dive.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for listening. We hope you liked this episode. If you did, we'd really appreciate it if you could give us 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on. Also, we would be so appreciative if you could just share this episode or this podcast with all your friends and family who are vegans or vegan friendly. We're also really excited because we are going to be launching something really cool pretty soon on the site, so keep an eye out for that. And we will see you really soon with a new episode.